Parsnip Training Tutorial, Language Overview. The main building block of a parser starts with an object. Objects are larger components that can include fields, bit fields, enums, and even other objects. They bring together various structures to form a cohesive unit. An entry point object is a specific object that serves as the starting point for building your data structure. It tells the system where to begin processing and is the central point for organizing your fields.
A field is the basic unit of data for most structures in Parsnip intermediate language. Objects, enums and bit fields are made up of fields, which store data. Each field has a unique name, making it easier to reference and use in different parts of your structure. Fields have various types, such as numbers or text. The type of field determines what kind of data it can store and how that data can be used. Fields can also have various sizes. The field size determines how much data is parsed into each field. It is essential that the field size is accurate because inaccurate field sizes will result in data being parsed incorrectly and could even cause the parser to fail.
Enum is short for enumeration. Enums are a way for numbers to be assigned names that make them easier to understand. They help us turn numerical codes into meaningful labels. Enums consist of fields with a name, a value, and a logging value. The enum itself has a name and size. Enums may also include references or notes. An enum is great because data is logged in a more readable format rather than just numbers and codes.
Bit fields are small building blocks that might be used as part of objects. Imagine bit fields as a box filled with smaller items, like individual pieces of a product. Each bit field represents a specific detail or characteristic, contributing to the overall structure of the bit field. For example, if you're shipping a computer, the bit field might be the computer itself, while the bit fields, could represent the individual components like the CPU, RAM, and hard drive. In other words, bit fields are a way for Parsnip to understand information in smaller parts than the standard 8-bit minimum. Each bit field contains specific information about its component, such as size, type, and configuration.
Choices, also known as switches, determine which components are processed. They guide Parsnip through different paths, telling it which path to follow at each step. It's important to add all the other building blocks first before setting up choices, or else you won't be able to link them correctly.
Now let's put all of this together. Before we start, review the protocol specification sheet to identify objects with no outgoing links. Remember, the structure of your protocol is built from the least dependent components to the main entry point. 1. Start with configuration. Give the protocol a name and define the transport protocol type, for example, TCP, and specify the ports it runs on, for example, 8080, 8888. 2. Begin with the least dependent components. Identify the basic elements that have the least dependencies. Usually these are the enums followed by the bit fields. 3. Define enums. Create definitions for all enums in JSON format or using the Parsnip web application GUI. Each should have a name, size, and may include references or notes. 4. Define bit fields. Define the bit field structures, specifying which bits correspond to which fields. This too can be done using either JSON or the Parsnip web application GUI. Make sure that each field with an enum type has a reference type that points to the correct enum object. 5. Create basic objects. Start with the objects that have the fewest outward links. It may help to think of objects and switches as a tree structure. Start at the bottom and work up from the root of the tree. This could also be called the entry point object. 6. Build main high-level object. Create the main message object that typically includes both the header and body. Ensure all dependencies are correctly referenced. 7. Integrate components. Combine the previously defined enums, bit fields, and objects into the main message object. Verify that the relationships between the components are correctly established. 8. Finalize configuration. Finalize the configuration by pointing the parser to the main message object. Verify all components are correctly linked and adjust if needed.
By structuring your data this way, you ensure it is logical and efficient. Starting with fields, then adding enums and bit fields, organizing them into objects, and finally setting up choices creates a well-connected system. That concludes this video. For more information, check out the links in the description below. Thanks for watching.